Hey guys, welcome back to the stream. Wasn't too active with the markets today, but wanted to catch up with a few things here, especially considering that yesterday we did have some pretty freaking decent live stream together where we called this absolutely amazing call on gold, and just want to make sure to catch up a bit on this kind of a follow-up live stream and following up on the things that happened. And of course, things were happening according to the expectation. Market absolutely plummeted and exactly went towards where we expected it to go. Only issue we did face, actually, I can tell you that it wasn't really too easy to get any entry on it. It's kind of true that it wasn't exactly giving the exact point of entry that we expected. However, that's not really a problem. It is still pretty much confirming the idea that what we were expecting was indeed valid, and the entire analysis was, of course, logical and set up in a way that it should have been working according to. So, of course, very successful live trade. And these are the things we do pretty much on the daily basis in mentorship, of course. Like I cannot even celebrate such win. Like this is just something absolutely casual. We go to the market, we analyze it, and logically, as far as we find the logic in the market, it is very easy to take a winning trade just like this. And of course, our entry was kind of expecting the market to be, oh, you know what? Let's just go back to the thing that we spoke of yesterday. So if I'm gonna go here,
We
so
can get you an Apex or Top Step fund.
okay, let's skip this bullshit advertisement. So, all right, so this was from yesterday. So what we basically expected was the market to be coming back towards this rough approximate point of entry, and after that we could have been taking an easy selling position. And like I mentioned, despite this wasn't exactly happening to give that specific point of entry, it still does really confirm that our analysis, according to the logic, was indeed what was driving the market. And in the further next couple of days, we can definitely be expecting further lower prices on gold, according to this narrative that we have already been speaking of yesterday. One thing in hindsight, which I can only think in hindsight right now, of course, because everything has already been happening here, is as far as someone would have been executing this with a point of breakout entry, it could have been kind of possible because obviously one of the ways to take a trade is either on a pullback, which this would have been pretty much a pullback trade, or the other way of taking a position is a breakout. And of course, breakout, it does sound a bit simple, of course, because it's kind of the retail type of entry that a lot of retail traders do. But I can absolutely tell you that one of the ways to take a trade if you are missing the trade very often is really just making sure that it is breaking out of a range. So let's say we would have been considering a specific price range here, and even though the entry might have been a bit late, we could have still executed the trade on a breakout a bit lower because, of course, as far as we understand the market momentum, it is, of course, still going to be moving according to the higher time frame narrative, and of course, moving together with the higher time frame analysis, which is in line together with the fundamentals. And another thing that's very noticeable from yesterday's meeting when we were analyzing the selling trade is very often the bigger movers of the market and the trades that you should be definitely interested in is mostly the ones that are actually like driven by some kind of global event, which is of course what we exactly seen yesterday is over the weekend we had some kind of massive news event which of course gave a specific ID, and that of course gave a clean analysis as far as the technicals were perfectly matching with it. Let's touch base a bit further details here in terms of what we could be potentially expecting next. I could imagine a lot of people might be trying to buy here. Really no big reason to be taking any sort of buys. I would not be supporting any sort of buying ideas, at least for the moment. Would rather stick with further selling trades. As far as tomorrow, the market will be coming back towards roughly approximately to this area, because of course this is also part of the support resistance from here and here, basically the market matching with the same points. As far as we would be coming back here, I could definitely be again interested in taking some other selling trades. If that happens, that we can go back here to a pullback. Further selling trade will be definitely very interesting. Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely further selling trades because also these recent lows, this low and this low, is basically pretty much just building up equal lows. And something probably everybody understands is equal lows is most typically creating a pool of liquidity. So that is indeed further confirming those potential selling trades. And like I mentioned also yesterday, like we also spoke with in yesterday's meeting, like do not forget that anytime the market is indeed creating any type of massive move, it will eventually going to be pulling backwards to it. So it is just obvious that these areas are absolutely going to fill in. So what I'm thinking is in terms of also how the support resistance of the market is working. And if you're just thinking of support turning into resistance, which realistically is really the way you should be thinking of the market most often, like whatever concept you're speaking of, end of the day, it always goes back to the same basics of the market, like the same support resistance ID. Like if I'm telling you that, okay, the market is most potentially moving downwards here because we got that market gap there, or potentially the market is moving lower because we got this equal lows here. Like, all right, fine, you got that understanding. But if I'm also telling you that what the basic understanding is and what the roots of every concept is always, of course, turning back into the support resistance. And if I'm gonna show you this high here, and I'm just dragging a point of level in the market, as the market is very often working, at points where the market is finding a sensitive area, it is of course going to be reverting back to that sensitive area in just a matter of time. So speaking of it, that now this high, I mean, these points in the market have been once already been seen as a sensitive area in terms of moving back here. I mean, moving to this level and then moving lower. To a certain degree, we have to consider that as a support level. Because, of course, at some point in the market, this here had to be moving more to the downside because it has been finding some whatever reason of support resistance at that point. And of course, like I mentioned, the other reason of moving back lower here is really that alignment. Like if you just find that alignment here at their one point, and of course the next time the market is moving back to it, this is kind of the recent point where the market could be moving towards according to the theory of support resistance. And of course, it is totally understandable that this sort of theory of the market is kind of overlooked by many traders because everybody just seems to be jerking off to the older blocks and everybody just seems to be jerking off to the more complicated concepts. But of course, I can tell you these very simple essential concepts of the market of just really understanding the market nature is of course going to be playing a massive role into understanding a main direction. And I can absolutely tell you that when I'm looking at a trade and when I have been looking at yesterday's analysis on gold that we just spoke of yesterday, which was this one, perfectly called it. Like, who's one of the best traders right now? Probably liquidity trading. We have already seen too many Robin Scop accounts blown by others. So now that that was called, of course, how am I understanding further market direction lower? Like, of course, we still got the fundamental analysis from yesterday that we already spoke of. I mean, I already showed it to you, which was the White House event negotiation between China and the USA. And that event is, of course, going to be playing out for the next upcoming days too. So it wasn't just a one night event. This is something that's going to be affecting the market further in the next couple of days and maybe the next couple of weeks. And of course, if we just take a look at how everything is kind of progressing here in terms of a timeline, in terms of how the market is moving ahead in the timeline, it just once again becomes more logical for this news from yesterday that has already been affecting the market quite a lot. It is most potentially further pushing the market lower now that we already see that everything on the technical side is also confirming this. Like, can you even tell any sort of reason on the technical side that would be telling you potential buying prices? No, you can't. Like, you just cannot say a single reason of why the market may potentially be moving to the upside. Not a single reason. So that, of course, is going to be further selling prices, in my opinion. All right, I got a lot of analysis here, so I might need to delete some of them to make it a bit cleaner. With this one here. Very imaginable that we would be going back to this level here. This is also in line with the supply demand. Not a very decent reason for the low prices. That's also taking a recent high. So in my opinion, such further movement lower is very much the most realistic approach. Like that easily. But of course, like I mentioned, like such ideas, it's kind of subject more to tomorrow's market because this is just a rough approximate ID. Won't be exactly specifying a point of entry like we did yesterday night. This was of course absolutely excellent. But of course, more of the expected next entry, of course, and the next opportunity, it's somewhere between this area here, because of course not even mentioning that this is in line with a lot of sensitive areas of in the market. That here, and of course, then of course further moving lower with the new event. So really the question is what type of entry you're getting there. That's a different question, of course, um, which I won't really touch base on right now, but of course that would be a different question moving into tomorrow's analysis, of course. And let me also touch base on another few things here. I got a lot of good positive messages from yesterday's analysis of how good yesterday's gold trade was and how everything was playing out according to how it was expected. A lot of people were surprised, I guess. But I can tell you that such analysis, like I cannot even be bragging about it. Like I just won't be going around the industry like other Robin's Cup account blower traders do, of calling a good trade and bragging about it all day long. Like these sort of trades are totally casual to me. So obviously we just move forward to the next opportunity and as far as the next opportunity is there, we are just going to be playing according to what the market wants us to do at that given moment. Because of course you cannot forget that the market is always just presenting to you the most recent opportunity. Like you're only going to be having a setup as far as it's relevant. This trade from yesterday, it already happened. To find a new trade, a completely new re-evaluated analysis has to be happening. Like you have to completely reevaluate your analysis and you cannot just keep the same main analysis that you had from yesterday. Like, of course, the main analysis is going to be the fundamentals, but of course, on the technical side, you do need to actually completely reevaluate the things you have been doing. So that's going to be quite important. And yeah, I can definitely take a look at US 30 before I might wrap up the live stream. All right, so US 30 is pretty bullish in my opinion. I mean, obviously this year. I mean, right now it's not really the best to analyze US 30. Like, I'm happy to share my opinions here, but of course, US 30 is really just a bit pointless to analyze because, of course, whenever you got a market gap, first that has to be cleared. And once the market gap is cleared, that's when you can go back to the market and reevaluate how things are working. But of course, it's kind of pointless to analyze it here. If I was to be really giving you a very much a recent opinion, I would definitely say you should be focusing on somewhere between really the most important area, which is of course this 30 minutes, because of course we are perfectly in line with this H4, or maybe it was a daily, yeah, the daily time frame support resistance of the market is pretty much perfectly in line with that. And that of course is indeed going to be playing a massive role. So that being said, This is really the most interesting potential entry on US 30. Other than that, like obviously you gotta prioritize the market gap. Like that's not even a question. Like whenever the market gap is there in the price, that has to be fair then, and you can start asking questions after that. But of course, speaking of something that would be more usable right now, is kind of this approximate range, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean definitely this here. It's also in line with this support in the market. Yeah, other than that, US Treasury is something I rather trade in New York. Obviously, if something is based on the New York session, you're not interested in trading it in the Asian session. So for that reason, US Treasury is best to be analyzed in the New York session. That's when you want to be most interested in it. It's really a big mistake to be even thinking of any sort of entry in the Asian time. Like there's just no relevant entry for you. Like there's no given reason to be taking any sort of entry on it. All right, guys, just wanted to catch up on what happened on gold yesterday. Very happy to see these things, and of course, like the thing with Forex a lot of times is the type of traders like me who just kind of live their own life and casually take good trades here and there and casually consistently make a living out of trading. Like these sort of things, we do not really even like to make a big noise out of it. Like I won't be making a noise out of a trade that is completely casual. We just move forward to the next opportunity. Like, I could be also running my mouth of going to Robin's Cup and then getting blown up with Robin's Cup for like six, seven times. Like I could be also doing that. But of course, if you're a full-time trader, you do not really need to please your audience that way to constantly promise things that you cannot deliver on. But I'm rather someone who wants to execute things and not just give false promises. And I think that is very visible with the trade we had yesterday on gold, like pure action, just action and not just false promises. All right, guys, I appreciate the attention. Just wanted to tune in a bit. And of course, thanks for joining. Anybody who's supporting the channel, I appreciate it. And have a good day, guys.